Good day, people. First of all, I apologize. It's been a while since the last upload, but we are back at it again. Today's video is going to be a bit different. It's just the format will be different. There'll be no transitions. It's just a Nigerian nerd telling his story. The focus will be on From Software games and how these games have changed his life. I hope you enjoy it. It was hell to edit, but it was really beautiful as well. Enjoy.
Yeah, hello everyone. Name is TY. Um, First off, I'd like to thank the Nigerian Nerd for having me on this show. I've been a very, very big fan since day one, and I'm glad to see what our fellow Nigerian brother is doing. To get right into it, today I'll be trying to take everyone on a journey through my gaming history. I'll throw in some of my personal experiences as I grew up and show you how these games have kind of impacted the way I look at life at the point I am now. And also tie into the topic matter of today, which is Sekiro. I'll start in 1998, where From Software, that's the company that developed Sekiro, they also were also one of the companies that developed Tenchu, which was a game that came out then. This was the year of Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, Deus Ex, very, very, really big games that came out that year. And I was privileged to play most of these games myself. And around that time, most of the games had a common theme, which was you would play and you pick a basic character to start with. You have some little weapons, a little bit of damage, some moves, and then you grind, and then you get stronger weapons. You get more equipment, more armor, kind of stuff like that. And as you proceed, you get more powerful. Enemies get easier to defeat. Even though like you meet more stronger bosses, but then you have more options. So generally, it's easier across the board. But then all of that went out the window when I played Tenchu. Now this is a game that has no regard for how much time you've put in or how strong you feel your character is, whatever weapons you have. Your skill is being tested at every single boss you meet. The same amount of difficulty you would have fighting the 8th boss is the same amount of difficulty you'd have had fighting like the 4th boss, for example. And it really blew my mind at the point. And around that time period, I was in secondary school. I've had a relatively good life, I've had most of the things I needed provided for me, So I don't think I faced hardship, so to speak, but then I ran into my own share of problems. But during that time in my life, I had this tendency to always blame something else or transfer the responsibility that's supposed to be mine to something else and say that, okay, this thing is not working because of this or that problem. And in Nigeria, we have so many excuses to use. You can blame NEPA, you blame the government, you blame this one, you blame that one, but I was never really taking responsibility for my actions. So that was me every single time pointing a finger at this or that thing, saying that was the reason why I was not succeeding in the things I was doing, right? But slowly, I was starting to see in my video game journey now. I was starting to see how video games give you an arena to express your identity, in ways that you probably will not be able to, maybe in words or in your real life actions. But video games would provide you with a platform and provide you all these characters that have different personalities. They bring different tools, to the table, and you're given a chance to express yourself through somebody that you choose. Moving forward a little bit, I had gone to UK for my university, and then I really got into fighting games. As a kid, I always used to play Street Fighter, but I didn't play it seriously. I probably just knew how to do one move, two moves, and I would just spam them. I hope to win. But then at that point, I was transitioning from a casual gamer and trying to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say professional, but more like intermediary, trying to actually put in effort and learn the mechanics of the game and how to get better and how to compete and stuff like that. And then I was playing Street Fighter 4. Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition came out closely, and I always tended to pick obscure characters. Like obviously I started with like people like Ryu and Ken just to understand the game, but as I got more comfortable, I started diverting to people like Rose. I played Rose for a bit. I played Guy for a bit. Then I kind of settled on this very, very weird and obscure character that people don't really pick, called Gen. Now, Gen was the character that gave me the most excitement, in the sense that he had so many tools, and he was extremely complex. Things that you would probably have to do like 4 or 5 button presses with Gen, you could do them with another character with like one or two button presses. So it was always almost always an uphill climb. But I found that I enjoyed it. It was the challenge was worth it for me, and every time I got that 1 win, 2 wins, it was always worth it. And then at the time, I recall seeing there was a lot of buzz going on in 2015 about this new game called Bloodborne, and I would see a lot of screenshots, I would see some short videos, and everything was always very grim and dark, and there would be this guy, your character would be wearing this weird outfit, not really an armor, more like a leather jacket with like a scarf, and then he's wearing this weird hat, and he was always fighting this very obscure and weird monster. And it was one of those games that I was always hearing it was very, very hard. So I was just like, I'm just never playing this game. I'm never going to try it. I was still playing my fighting games. And then at one point, I finally got a hold of the game and I was like, look, I finished all the games I have. Let me just give this a go. So I popped the Bloodborne CD in, and then I realized that this is a game that teaches you how to suffer, putting it simply. And one thing that the game made me realize was that I kind of like suffering, which is weird, but I thought I was somebody that didn't like stress, but Bloodborne changed all of that for me. This is a game that won British Academy Award for game design. This was in the year of The Witcher 3, Phantom Pain, Overwatch, a lot of big games as well. But this game won the award for game design. And as soon as I started playing the game, I could kind of see, like by the time I went like 40%, I could see exactly why. Because the game is very different. It's ridiculously different. I mean, you wake up in a hospital bed, and usually a game would start off with a tutorial. They will show you, okay, this is the world you are in, this is what's going on, this is where you need to go. There'll be some kind of map or a compass or something. But this game gave me nothing. Like, you just wake up and you know that you move your left analog to move, so you just know you can move and turn the camera around, but you don't know you can do anything else. And then the next room you go into is a room that is designed to show you that you're going to die a lot in this game. That's the only way I can look at it, because you walk in and there's this massive werewolf monster thing. You don't even know how to attack at this point too. And the guy just attacks you, and one hit he does takes your entire health bar, right? So the odds of you dying there are pretty much 90-1. And I could only pass that part after I had finished the game the first time, so I knew what to do next time I got there. And you would think, in your head, when you die at that point, you feel like, okay, now I have to respawn and do this all over again, the regular gaming procedure. But then you discover that dying at that point in the game actually takes you to a different area, which is called the Hunter's Dream, which is almost like your home base. So I found it very ridiculous that the way the game shows you the way to your home base is for you to die. It's just trying to prepare you that you're going to die a lot in this game. The game stresses a few things which carry over into the topic of today, which is Sekiro, and one of them is consistency. The game demands your attention, right? You can't play Bloodborne and be texting or be, have some video playing on the side, glancing at it, have music playing in the background. You can't, you will die. Like, every single basic enemy you meet can take 70% of your health with one hit, and there's loads of them, and all of them have a lot of health, right? So you have to get through all of this, and one simple distraction, you're dead. Okay, so now you have a game where every single thing you encounter in the entire game wants to kill you. Everything. And there's no help. Nobody's coming to help you. You knock on some doors and you hear some people just laughing at you that, this guy, you're messed up, you're caught out, in the hunt and all of that. But you don't even know what the hunt is. You have no idea what's going on, right? And the game tells you almost nothing about the story. So I think on my first playthrough, I went maybe like 40-50% before I even started to realize that there were some connections between the things I did at the beginning and the things I'm doing now, and there's some deeper, underlying story. And it's one of those things that when you finally can piece everything together using very, very subtle clues, there's nothing that sticks out. Everything is very, very subtle, but intentionally subtle. So you have to pay attention and actually dig and explore, and you must want to find the story. If not, you just won't find it. But when you finally piece everything together, it's just an amazing work of art. And now Bloodborne shares a lot in common with other From Software games. Without jumping into Sekiro, let's look at like Bloodborne and Dark Souls, the Dark Souls series, right? All the games have like very, very common, a lot of things in common, right? One of the major things is that the games will teach you patience. Like, it's not one of those games that you can just rush through and mash R1. Like, just pressing R1 at the wrong time means you die. Remember, one hit means you are dead. and that's just regular enemies. Not to talk of the massive bosses you meet. Some of them have like 4 or 5 hands and all kinds of, weird things you encounter. But then the game teaches you that you must be patient. You can't rush in, and most of the time, like when I'm fighting a boss, I spend almost double the time I would have spent bringing a boss's health down to 10%. Like if I spent, 10 minutes bringing his health down to 10%, I probably spent 20 minutes trying to take away that last 10%, because at that point, the enemies just start bringing out random surprise attacks that you've never seen before. And trust me, one of them touches you and you're dead. And this is how it is. There's not many save points. So once you die, you have to go all the way back and fight another bunch of enemies and come back and fight the same boss over and over and over again. But then one thing I found is that with every boss you meet, every situation you meet in any of these games, there's always a solution. There's no such thing as hopeless, right? It feels hopeless, but there's always an exact way to go about it that gets you out of that situation. And until you figure out that exact sequence of commands, or that exact strategy, or the exact way to approach a certain enemy, trust me, you'll be stuck there forever. In addition to the patience thing, right, the game demands effort and attention. Like if you didn't like let's say Dark Souls, you never like Bloodborne. And if you didn't like Bloodborne, you will never like Sekiro. So now fast forward a couple of weeks of endless suffering and sleepless nights. I'm at a point where I finally understand the Bloodborne game. I've achieved all the endings. I can pretty much run through one playthrough in like 1 hour, 2 hours, stuff like that. I now understand what these games bring to the table. And then I hear about this game coming out called Sekiro, right? And I have always been a big fan of Tenchu, and Sekiro is almost a direct descendant of Tenchu, because it's like ninja stealth, just brought to like today with the new technologies and everything that they have available to them. And as soon as this game came out, I knew I had to get it. Got it the first day it was available, ran home, popped it in the PS4, and it started again. Remember that entire cycle with Bloodborne where you just know that you're just going to keep dying. But this time I think I was a little bit more ready for it because of my experience with Bloodborne, And the final boss of Bloodborne was just hell. So that one had just prepared me to die. You'd be ready to die like a million times before I defeat anybody. So started playing Sekiro, and automatically you can already feel the familiar air you get from Bloodborne and from software games. Everything is heavy, everything is intentional, everything is deliberately vague, but as you go along you start to see clues and other little writings here and there. You can listen to guards when they talk and you start to piece together, okay, this is where I am, this is going on, this is what I'm trying to achieve. The basic premise of Sekiro is you are a shinobi, and you have been assigned to protect this kid for the entire of your life, because that's what shinobis do. And he gets captured by the Ashina clan, and you get captured as well. But then at the beginning of the game you escape and you try and rescue the prince. You want to rescue him from the Ashina clan, and then you stealth your way to where he is. You get to where he is, then he finally gives you a sword. At the beginning you have no weapons, but you don't have to fight anyone, it's just stealth, right? And then he gives you a sword, and then they open you into the world of Sekiro, right? You run into the first enemy, and admittedly the first enemy, second enemy, they were kind of easy. But then after you kill like 3 people, now you're starting to feel like, this game is not that hard. It's not even like Bloodborne where I was dying at the beginning. Out of nowhere you have to fight a boss, like an actual boss. So now, without giving away too much of the story, at this point, like you run into this boss, and this guy has like a massive bow on his back, has a massive sword, full samurai outfit, full samurai armor and everything, and guy clearly looks like a badass. And you have to fight him like within the first 15 minutes of this game. And well, it's possible, technically it's possible to defeat this guy, but then they do that thing they do, the same thing they did to us in Bloodborne at the beginning, where they show you that you absolutely have to die, because even if you eventually defeat the guy, he still overpowers you and cuts off your hand. So regardless of whatever it is, you still lose. So the game has started again. It has started again. And so after that, you come back to yourself, and then you don't have one arm, but then you get like a prosthetic attachment thing for your arm, and then it's almost like it's an additional tool as well, because you can use it to grapple to surfaces. You can attach like a spear to it, flamethrower, all kinds of things on it, so it adds an entire different angle. But then you kick off in this unknown place, the same thing they do in Bloodborne, and you have to now start finding your way around. Now Sekiro has all kinds of experiences mixed into one. There's some places you'll be in Sekiro and you're so scared you don't even know whether you should proceed. You'll be in so many pitch black areas that you can barely even see the areas in front of you, but you just have to keep going, and then at any point anything can pop out and just kill you on the spot, and you have to start from where you just your last save point you had. And mind you, these save points are always far and in between. So you go through all of this, and then the recurring theme starts to show itself, which is you will get stuck at a particular position until you get better. And not talking get better in terms of get better weapons or get better tools, no, until you as a player get better. The game literally asks you to get good. If not, you will not finish it. And it's the game is brutal, but at the same time it's very honest, because at the point where you do exactly, as long as you do exactly what you're supposed to do, the game gives you no bullshit, and then you win. If you do exactly what you're supposed to do, you will win every single time, and you would only lose when you make a mistake yourself. And the game started to show me that for every decision you make, everything that you try to do, now beyond the game, now just in life in general, there is almost always something that you could have done to have avoided a bad outcome with everything you get into. I don't care what the odds are. I don't care if it was that I was driving down the road and then thunder struck my car or something. In my head, I believe that there's a way I should have driven to avoid that thunder. That's the way I think now because of these games, and it's really helped me, because what that does is that it forces you to look at yourself objectively at every given point in time. Anything that is going wrong in your life, I've now stopped blaming the government or the country or my neighbor or this person or whoever it is. Even if it's at the office, I don't blame other people. I try to look at myself and see how I could improve myself to avoid facing that problem in future. And that's where Sekiro enforces. And the game does not let up. It will keep on testing you over and over again. There's a sequence you go through where you run into almost like 4 or 5 bosses. Like, you enter this room, there's one massive boss, you spend forever fighting this guy, you finally beat him, you feel like you're going to make a lot of progress. You go in the next room, there's another boss there, and you just have to keep leveling up and leveling up and leveling up. And it forces you to believe in perfection. I never used to believe in perfection. I always used to feel like there should be flaws in everything you do. It's just the way of life. But Sekiro forces you. If you are not perfect, you are not beating a boss. You are not beating so many several bosses you'll be able to beat unless you're perfect. But then the game does an amazing thing of carrying you along. Now, not your character, not just you as a person, because you come such a long way that by the time you get to like the last 3 or 4 boss fights, you are a totally different person. The way you look at the game is entirely different. You are able to predict attacks that you've never seen before. Just looking at the character and the way they move their bodies, you can tell that, okay, this guy wants to do a sweeping attack, I need to counter this way. This guy wants to do a thrust attack, I need to counter this using this, whatever special skill I have. And everything is specific. It's not like for Bloodborne, most of what you do is dodging. You hit circle and then you dash and then you dodge. That's like how you avoid most of the attacks. But with Sekiro, there's like 3 or 4 different ways to counter different moves. So you have to counter moves exactly the way they need to be countered. If not, nothing for you. And then as you go through these progressions, you start to meet bosses that now they try to, in a bit to reveal part of your backstory, they refer to you as, what you were when they knew you before. Like you were such a cub, or there was a boss that referred to you as a puppy. But then at the point where you finally defeat the boss, the boss now finally tells you that you have finally grown and you are a wolf now. And that statement felt like it wasn't made towards my character. It felt like it was made to me, because technically I had to grow to defeat this boss. And the game takes you on all of these tangents. You die relentlessly, but then you keep trying and then you keep trying and then you get better. It gave me a fighting spirit. I'm not one to socialize so much in the real world, so to speak, but this game has actually taught me a lot of life lessons. So with everything I run into my day-to-day now, I look at everything differently. I'm not looking at anything as a roadblock. I'm looking at it as, okay, what can I do and how can I improve myself, to get out of this. I can't get too much into the game because I really want everybody to experience it for themselves. Sekiro is a game that I feel like almost anyone, if you have a PS4, a laptop, you should give the game a go. It is frustrating, but if you can get through the frustration, it's definitely worth the effort.
And that is the end of today's video. I hope you managed to stay through all 20 minutes of it, and I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, this is just a shameless plug to ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share with your friends, and follow us on social media. It's the Nigerian Nerd on Instagram, Nigerian Nerd on Twitter, Nigerian Nerd everywhere. I'll see you guys again in a couple of days with the next video. We're doing 3 more videos till the end of the season. It's been a pleasure.